Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Coffee Chat. I'm Andy Bozarth, Community Outreach and Advocacy Director for AARP Kansas, and I'm joined today by Marvin and Ann Hunt. Welcome.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having us this morning.
We appreciate it.
Oh, it's really good to see you guys again. I know you guys have been staying really busy besides your band with a twist doing concerts. You've been doing a lot of community outreach. And last time we talked, you were planning an event on July 11th in Eskridge. And how did that go?
Well, thank you for asking. Eskridge, is a small town. I grew up there, halfway between Topeka and Emporia. Mm-hmm. And it went really well. They had many years that their city park, their bandstand, had been kind of fallen down. I mean, they maintained it enough to keep it going, but it needed paint and some wood repair, carpentry, and a lot of new roof and everything. So this team of women, and I guess there was a guy or two in there, but we were very impressed when we learned about them because they had taken it upon themselves to raise money and repair this and refurb this bandstand. And so we got a grant, and I won't go into a lot of details. You can kind of direct us to what you want us to mention or not, but we worked with Americana Music Academy and Eskridge, the Park Foundation, and received funding through the National Endowment for the Arts, along with the Kansas Department of Commerce. And the funding helped us bring a wide variety of musicians to that event. And so we staged the event. We had to watch the rain because it rained the day before. Actually, it was supposed to happen the day before, but it was raining. And so we postponed it a day. But I know we were really worried, Andy, but it turned out really good. And we had a couple hundred people. And for a community of that size, to get a couple hundred people out to the park was quite a success, I think. And we learned a lot in the process and just had a good time. So
that's great. And, through the grapevine, I heard that you had 9 bands. And how did you arrange all of that music in one day?
Well, it was interesting. But fortunately, we were working with really good people. And so everybody was flexible. And when we came out and said, we are going to have to move the day, everybody did it. And we were shocked. But everybody, they knew it was for a good cause. And they were flexible and went with it. And some of the groups, we did have quite a variety. And everybody did about an hour. Yeah. And so there was our band, the House Jumpers, and then our duo with a twist. We did it. And then we have a Zydeco group. This is all, these, what I mentioned to you, are under our House Rent Records label that we have, which is committed to community functions, providing music, and sharing music with communities through our record label, the folks that are on that. And one of them is Zydeco to Go.
And they've been at AARP Kansas Friday night concert band, and they are great too.
They are wonderful.
They play the Cajun accordion and washboard style.
It's so fun.
Friend Ryan played trumpet with them in Eskridge too, so they had a 3-piece, and
so fun.
They sing a lot of really fun songs that get the audience real involved. Songs like "Walk Like a Chicken" and things like that.
It's so fun to see adults get up and do that,
And there were a lot of kids in Eskridge too. So.
And we had a ton of children, and so of course they always pull them in and all of that.
Stan Unruh also performed as he's a folk singer and a storyteller through his songs. He's really good. He performed Alexa Dawson out of Emporia.
Fantastic.
She's another one that's been on the Friday night concert series.
Oh, has she?
I love
yes.
Now, part of what this Eskridge thing included was touring the Kansas touring artists through the KCAIC program with the Department of Commerce. So these touring artists are registered to be hired to go out and play around Kansas and such through that program. And so because we were funded with them, we selected 3 of their artists, and Alexa was one. And Alexa is an indigenous affiliated person, and her motifs of her music are around sensibilities that indigenous people would probably identify with, and she has a lovely voice.
It is. She has a beautiful voice, and really connected with a lot of people. I mean, there was a line to buy her CDs, afterwards. That was really, which we love, because that helps support her, and what
Yes.
and
we being committed to Kansas musicians and artists is a really big part of our AARP outreach this year. And I have a picture here of that day, so I'm going to put that up on the screen. And if you could tell me what's happening here.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so behind the women there in the front is the gazebo, or the bandstand, that has, you can see, it's got a nice new coat of paint. You can't see the roof, but it's a typical bandstand roof, but it's all brand new. And cutting the ribbon is Annie Compton, and she kind of heads up the Park Foundation in Eskridge. And Jennifer Krause is the second one from the left. She's been very fundamental in helping us get all the marketing and everything done. And then the other ladies there holding the ribbon. So they're cutting the ribbon. This bandstand was built in 1903, and it's in the middle of the park, which was dedicated back along in there somewhere. And so that's kind of that happened kind of at the peak of the afternoon, I guess you'd say. And from there on, we just continued with music. So it was a lot of fun. And behind us, if you were the camera person, behind you is a skating rink.
Oh,
and,
wow.
It's really nice. I mean, the park's lovely. They've got a lot of mature trees, and it's one block off of the main street of the town.
And also, right before this Park Foundation, which Annie is a part of, and Jennifer, they have new sidewalks put in.
Right.
And are making the park, one of their goals is to make it much more accessible for everybody, which they are clearly doing. And it was also really wonderful.
There's a veterans memorial in the park.
Yes.
It's a kind of a sidewalk over to a rock wall that shows tribute to other veterans of all wars and such. And so it's really a nice, and they've got a tennis court there too. So
they do have a tennis court.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
What's your connection to Eskridge? I'm going to take that picture down. And tell me a little bit more about how you got involved with Eskridge in particular.
Well, we had a farm 5 miles south of town. And a little aside, when I grew up, when I was about 10 or 11, I was going to run away from home, like a lot of little boys. And I packed up my suitcase and put it on the handlebar of my bicycle. And I was going to run away by pedaling 5 miles into Eskridge. And I decided I would live underneath the bandstand. And I got halfway up our gravel road, and my suitcase broke and fell open, and all my stuff fell out on the gravel. And I thought, I can't do this. So
go ahead.
Me and the Eskridge Bandstand go a long ways back.
That is a delightful story. And we are starting to get comments from the audience. We have one that says, this is very cool. One that says, great information about the Eskridge community engagement and improvement. And for those of you just joining, I'm Andy Bozarth, Community Outreach and Advocacy Director for AARP Kansas. I'm joined by Marvin and Ann Hunt, who are not only community activists, they are a duet called With a Twist. And they are our featured concert this Friday in the AARP Kansas Friday concert series. So if you're interested, you can tune in 6:30 at this Friday at the AARP Facebook.com channel, which is facebook.com/AARPKS. And if you have questions, put those in the chat box. I know they'd be happy to discuss any questions that you have. So now that you've completed your work in Eskridge, do you have plans for future outreach?
Yeah, we do. And I also want to mention quickly that the other artists we had.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I want to make sure I get everybody in. Is Josh Connor, who did a jamming with Josh, which is he brought all these incredible. He makes percussion instruments out of found objects, kind of like Blue Man
Oh,
Group.
wow.
And he also brought out 2 drum sets, and the kids were out playing that with Rocky came and helped him, another drummer. And we also had Spencer and Rains. They're also from the Grant Touring and Wirtz, Kelly Wirtz.
And Kelly Wirtz is from Matfield Green, and he does old time music like spoons and a keyboard that I don't even know how to describe it.
It's a suitcase keyboard that they used to have,
like a pump organ.
Yeah, that they carried around, and he does kind of like cowboy music and things like that. So it was really fun.
Wow. That's great. And you had such a diverse group of artists performing. I think that is wonderful. I can see why so many people turned out. We've got more comments from the audience. One is good people doing good things. Yay. I agree with that comment 100%. And then another a question. Are you part of the community foundation doing the improvements to the park, or were you the entertainment support for the event you described?
That's a really good question. And because I had connections to that community, we targeted it first. But our viewpoint on that is we want to go with the community and see what they're developing and what they want to do. And then we kind of go on the side and support what they want to do. Like we called Annie Compton and those guys, and we said, we know that you've got a swimming pool in Eskridge that they're raising funds for, and this park. We would like to be part of that and support. Would you like to have music? And Annie goes, oh man, it's been my lifelong dream to have music in that gazebo again, because they hadn't had anything in a bandstand for so long. So they loved the idea, and that we got the grant, made it where they could afford it. And we actually paid Eskridge a little rent for their park, to make sure that they could cover some of their expenses on that. So we are not part of the foundation. It was a combination of Americana Music
with Max Paley.
He's
the director.
It's a nonprofit musical instruction academy in Lawrence. Us with House Rent Records, and then the Eskridge Park Foundation worked together to like a team. We were a team, and we spent hundreds of hours together putting it together and stuff. So we were just a supportive element in that.
It's interesting because particularly with Americana, like they had a drawing. We asked people for surveys to get feedback, and Max provided a ukulele.
We gave
away ukulele, and he was able to talk about what they provide, in terms of lessons, which is a lot of online, which for a rural community is important. And so it was, and he did a lot of in-kind, like the sound system.
He provided the sound system and other support.
So it's a good question. I think it's an example of how you can work with a community and really come up with an event where they were able to do some things to further their cause too. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that's great. And what community are you looking at working with next?
Well, we've been visiting and thinking.
We made a trip to Humboldt. And Humboldt's an amazing city. They're really doing great stuff. There's a family down there that's got several storefronts that they're trying to keep the community vibrant with arts and vacation types of hotel. They got a beautiful hotel they're working on. And so we're looking at that. We're looking north to the communities, and we haven't talked to some of these communities yet, but we're looking at, McLeod, Oskaloosa, up in that area, Jefferson County. And we're open to suggestions. We felt like, Andy, that Eskridge was perfect in a sense because the community downtown is a little rough. There's a lot of stores, like in all small communities, storefronts are going away and stuff. But it was right for this because they had this team that wanted to make this work. So we're keeping our eyes open for another community and ways. It doesn't have to be just like the model we just did, but we're open to suggestions.
That's great. So if excuse me, if there's somebody from a community out there looking to do some kind of work, how would they get a hold of you?
Right. I could just give out our phone number. I mean,
Sure.
because people can.
I can type that in there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have it, or shall I say it?
Go ahead and say it.
Okay. It's 785-331-5749.
Okay. And so if you are interested in getting a hold of Marvin and Ann, if your community is interested in doing some similar work to Eskridge, you can reach them at 785-331-5749. And that's great. And obviously you do great work.
Well,
so
Thanks.
we learned a lot and doing this, and it doesn't have to be something this big.
right.
Probably thought we bit off a little more than we could chew at one point, but it all worked out well because we were working with great professional and good committed people, who are like, we can make this happen. So, but things that are a little more limited in scope, certainly, is something, or if there's something that a community already has going on where they want to add a component to it, that's another idea.
Like one example of that is Zydeco To Go did a outreach in Kansas City, Kansas, and they're on our record label, and we support Tommy Sherwood especially is interested. It was called Roots for Refugees.
New Roots for Refugees program. It was a fundraiser that Zydeco To Go went and played for as a fundraiser.
That's particularly something that Tommy and Barry are interested in, and that wasn't like multiple bands or anything, but it did help that community to raise funds. So
and we were going to play as well, but then it got rained out and moved, and we already had another thing. But those kinds of things, where we can be a piece of something, is also an option.
That's great. And what the events you're describing are actually live events. So how are your fans responding to the live events again? And, it's ever changing, this pandemic.
Well, you nailed it, Andy. I mean, it is ever changing. And, when the first wave of the pandemic was lessening, we had a stream of bookings. I mean, one day we booked 5 gigs, and
wow.
And we really enjoyed that because we put out records we put out 4 CDs on our record label last year, but we couldn't do anything in terms of live performance to support all of that. So we started playing again, and then the new Delta variant came around, and now we're kind of like a couple of jobs have been canceled because of that, and we're hesitant now to do some bookings because we notice other clubs and nightclubs and such are closing, shutting down again. So it's just kind of, what do you do? Wait and see and try to make the best of things. But it's confusing, to be honest. I mean, we don't know exactly the best way to proceed. And we think in the long run, there'll be enough herd immunity and such to where we can have more confidence when we book a gig. But it's just kind of one of those, use common sense and be careful as you proceed. So.
I think right now most of our gigs are outdoors that we at a garden spot in Missouri and stuff like that, which is great because you can distance,
right,
and all of that kind of thing. And it's the indoor venues, and as we get into winter, and fall, that we feel so badly for the club owners because they were just starting to get back up to having event calendars. And we have played some clubs with our band and everything, and people were like, yeah, this is great. They were so relieved. Yet on the other hand, this other thing has cropped up.
Yeah, and safety first. I think that's the bottom line. Everybody has to be safe.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's
adhere to the CDC's guidelines with masking and those kind of things only makes sense to us.
You're right.
Yes, does to me too. And this is kind of a switch, but what have been some of the challenges that you've identified for mature musicians? So I don't know how to say that.
You said it just fine.
Fine. And there's a point, it's interesting because there's a point where you say to yourself, this is where we are, this is who we are. And get over it. This is who we are. This is what we are. And we go forward from here,
Right.
This is what we want to do. And so I think that it is, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is a young person's game in a long way to do live performing. Live performing is, I think, really, because our friends, let's be honest, they don't want to wait till 10 o'clock to hear a band.
No.
We don't either, for the most part, and so I this is just our reality. And so, it's interesting because I think as you get older as a musician, you adapt, you change, you look at what you're doing. I mean, to sing about going to the senior prom isn't probably what we ought to be doing,
Yeah.
And we hopefully have moved a little bit beyond that with our musical taste. But I think reading, what is important to you, what do you really love, why are you still wanting to do music at this point, and then figuring out a way to share that with like-minded people.
Right.
And with this, the COVID, that makes you think more creatively, like more house concerts.
Right.
More other different kinds of venues, doing more things online, doing more recording. So you just have to adapt,
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that answer. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Coffee Chat. I'm Andy Bozarth, Community Outreach and Advocacy Director for AARP Kansas. I am joined by Marvin and Ann Hunt, and we are having a great discussion today. If you have any questions, please put those into the chat, and I'm sure Ann and Marvin would answer those with no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about the music, and that now COVID's coming back into the scene. Are you going to do more recording and be in the studio more in 2021?
Yes, it's kind of funny, Andy, because our band, the House Jumpers, we're known as playing blues, more or less. I mean, jump blues and kind of upbeat blues, I guess you would, and rhythm and blues and old time rock and roll type stuff. Mm-hmm. That's kind of our niche in the band, but our duo with a twist has more variety. And we kind of started the duo so we could stretch out a little bit. And so as last year, we released two records on House Rent Records of With a Twist, and one for the band. And then Zydeco to Go, we released a CD for them. And as we were doing this, a surprise kind of happened, Andy. We wrote some country songs. And
oh, wow.
Traditional style.
Traditional, like what country music kind of was maybe in the 50s or something. Mm-hmm. And
oh, wow.
And not only country, but songs about Kansas and about our rural heritage and what that means to us. And so we've been toying with the idea. You asked if we're going to be doing more recording, and we're toying with the idea of writing a few more Heartland, Kansas type songs, and maybe releasing a record with those type of songs on it.
Oh, how cool. That would be great.
So we'll see if the creative muse hits us to do that. We've got a lot of material, and undertaking an album is something like writing a book. I mean, you've got to write the songs, then render them in the right key so you can perform them, and then you perform them. Then you do the overdubbing and whatever you do there, and then you mix the record, and then you master the record, then you manufacture the record. So it's about a 10-step
that's
process.
A lot.
Yeah, you don't take it lightly, but we have a wonderful recording studio in our house that we've developed over the decades, and so it's there just waiting for us to get creative, and we will undoubtedly. Winter's a good time because you're not in summer. We're out gardening or playing gigs and stuff outdoors, but by winter you're kind of in your house more, and that's a good time to do more recording. So,
yes, definitely. And I have a question specifically for Ann. I know that you learned to play a new instrument as an adult. And so how was that? I mean, was it more difficult to learn as an adult than it is to learn as a child?
Yes.
Okay.
Because as an adult, when you're a kid, you kind of just do it. And but as an adult, you're a little more freaked out about, is this really coming off well, or am I really doing it well? And it was the upright. I've been playing for 2 years, upright bass.
And
I
you're
will
quite
say
good.
this. Yeah, I will say this. I credit my being able to do it and sing at the same time, because growing up, I did have piano lessons. I did have that kind of basic music background thing. And so, all you parents and grandparents out there, get those kiddos and piano and stuff. But because then I was able at a different time in my life to pull out that ability and apply it in a different way. That was really fun. And it's fun because, we go in, we set up to do our duo, we put up the bass, we put up the guitar, and then when we walk up and I go to the bass and he picks up the guitar, if people don't notice, they go, what?
The bass is so much bigger than Ann. It's really funny, but and Ann has done a great job. I mean, she's playing walking bass lines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's really.
I have a good teacher.
She has made incredible accomplishments, and we all have more to learn. But she's playing professional level now, and I'm very, very proud of her in such a short time. While singing too. I mean, it's kind of like rubbing your head and patting your stomach. It's not that easy to do, and she's really doing great, and we're really excited. She's got a 1955 K upright, kind of like what Elvis Presley's bass player used. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of fun. It's a vintage bass amp, and upright bass, and then she's got a brand new high-tech bass amp to make it sound good. That's designed.
Make me sound good.
It's designed just for the upright bass, and so.
Yeah, and so I encourage people. If you did music in your younger days and you want to do it again, there are groups out there, or you can do it. You can go online, and oh my gosh, I watched a Canadian guy who's a famous bass player about how to hand position everything, during the COVID. So I could go online and do lessons. So there's so much you can do, even if it's just for you. I mean, there are times when, like, Stan and Kathy Unruh are good friends, and Stan played there. We just get together and play, and it's it's so fun, and it adds a lot to your life.
And I will say too that AARP has done a great job, Andy, of helping people who are more mature think about learn an instrument. Or write a book, or go ahead and do the thing that has been a challenge now that the pressure of the career maybe isn't as high, or that sort of thing. And we really appreciate AARP encouraging people to take that next step and try something creative in their life that might seem a little ominous, but you can even if you don't become a professional at it, you can enjoy it, and play campfire songs or something like that with a ukulele, or there's any number of things you can do. So.
Yeah,
it's really important. Oh, go ahead.
Well, and we have friends, Dee and Eric Hansen out in Connecticut. They're originally from, she was from Kansas. They lived here many years before moving there. They have an early music group.
Like Renaissance.
Baroque.
Oh, wow.
And they do online concerts periodically that they've recorded. And it's just wonderful, So we're talking to them about, oh my gosh, this online stuff. How do we do this? So it's really a lot of fun, and you can kind of pick and choose and figure out, well, this is the audience, or I just want to do it for me.
Oh yeah, and I know that you've had to incorporate new technology into your music during the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we've ordered new software, so our studio is completely computerized now with a digital audio workstation, and that's been a major learning curve, and now the next thing is video software. We're looking at different video programs because, face it, I mean, it's 2021. You've got to do it, there's pain. There's that valley of pain where you have to learn something. But once you get to the other side of the valley, it's great. So we don't mind, putting in that work, Andy, to make those jumps to still stay relevant, I guess you'd say.
And I think that, we've talked before about collaborations with younger performers and everything. That helps you stay a little bit more in the know with them as well, because they're intuitively there. you know,
With
and
the digital realm.
with the digital realm, they're just there, which
Yes.
it's kind of fun to. We have a young woman that works with us with video, Maggie, and you know, she's 30. We're working with her, and you know, it's so fun. I mean, because that keeps you working with younger people, and that's really fun.
And that brings us, we are actually over time.
Oh,
We did not even get to all the questions that were prepared for the conversation, but for those of you who are listening, join us and you'll be able to see all of the incorporated, the base, the new technology on Friday at 6:30. Ann and Marvin Hunt, known as With a Twist, will be our featured performers for the Friday night concert series. Thank you, Ann and Marvin.
thank you.
I really appreciate you taking time to join us. And for all of you on the screen, we will see you next week. Same time,
Thank you
same
again.
place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.